in the summer months when the water gets warm and you think most of the fish go out deep. Some fish go out deep and stay out there, but then there's other fish that go even shallower. And y'all got any lakes like that where you notice that right when you think that everybody's out there drop shotting, you go up there in 3 foot of water and you see them swimming, big old schools of them cruising around, or see them chasing bait up on flats. You know, some lakes are like that, some aren't. But if that happens, you know, your normal half-ounce bait works, flashy colors, the chrome and blue, the shad pattern, stuff like that. But sometimes big baits that time of the year, surprisingly, will outfish the regular half-ounce size. When I say big baits, you know, it's the bigger baits like the 1 ounce, the 3/4, and the 1 ounce rattle trap. That's still a hard bait to beat, just the 3/4 ounce. This is actually 1 ounce right here. You can take that 1 ounce bait, and I learned that from fishing with another guy at Guntersville years ago. I never had used 1 ounce bait shallow very much. I'd only used them deep. And growing up on Lake Gaston and Kerr Lake, when I guided there, deep cranking that time of year, I grew up fishing against David Fritz and David Wright and Gerald Beck, any of those guys from the North Carolina cranking era, and I grew up under those crankbait guys. And Fritz caught all his fish in lots of tournaments. He wasn't always catching them on a posed crankbait like everybody always thought. He was out there lots of times in the same areas I was fishing in the Red Man tournaments, and I'd be watching him because I was 16, 17 years old, and I'd see him out there, and I'd be trying to figure out what is he doing, you know, because I'm thinking, you know, I knew the lake better than he did because I lived there, and he'd be on my home lake, and he would just wear me out in the tournament. It made me so mad. I was 16 years old, and I'd go out there and see where he would fish at, and I'd come through there, and I looked, and it'd be 25 foot deep, and I'm like, you know, he's not throwing a crankbait, you know. Back in those days, a 400 pose with no weight in it would run 15 foot deep on a good day on a long cast, you know, and it wasn't going to go that deep. And I figured out pretty quick he was throwing a 1 ounce hot spot and a 1 ounce rattle baits, just a lot of old Cordell 1 ounce spots, and then there was a Peter Allen lures made a 1 ounce bait like that, and there was several 1 ounce big lipless baits, you know, and they'd sink to the bottom, and I learned to fish that when I was 16 years old, and I caught a lot of big fish on it, and I lost even more big fish than I caught on it because we didn't have good hooks, we didn't have braid, we didn't have good rods, so we didn't have a lot of stuff when I was 16 or 17, but the bass that get out there really deep a lot of times, and I'll get back to the shallow in a minute, but the bass that get out there really deep sometimes will lay there on those bottom places, and that deep crankbaits didn't have deep crankbaits to get down there. We've got some that'll get down there, but still they want that vibration and rip of that big loud, you know, big loud lipless bait. So rip it up, let it fall, throw it to the bottom. I use it on a bigger rod when I'm fishing a big bait. I'll throw it usually on like the 7.2 medium heavy, something like that, 7.2. And I'll throw it and let it, and the 16-pound gamma fluorocarbon, that's a good size between 15 and 20. That's a good in-between, big size. Let it sink to the bottom and rip it up and let it fall and rip it up. And you just kind of, it's almost like fishing a big stroking spoon. You stroke the spoon and let it fall and flutter down. It's the same technique. And big fish will eat it up. I mean, it's just a great big fish pattern. So if you've got a lake or an area that you know some fish move out of those flats and they get off those deep drops somewhere that you might Carolina rig at, or you might deep crank, try that this summer when you get out there. Put you a big, you know, 1 ounce or 3/4 ounce, the one knocker, the XR75, one knocker bait, and the big 1 ounce rattle trap. They're really good choices to try to kind of experiment with. And also the shallow bite that I'm talking about. You can take that big 1 ounce bait there. This is the 3/4. And this is one right here that I've caught a lot of fish on. I don't even know how I got that in my box. But that's eat up. Look at all the paint's gone off that chrome and blue one right there. That's how you know it's a good one, when it's got just a little bit of chrome left on it and it's got a whole lot of that bone color on it right there. That's a good one.
And the information Bass University provides isn't your basic run-of-the-mill fishing video. This is specific information from A to Z to help you learn, get to the water, and become a better angler quickly.